Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our discussion today with Ivan Crowe of WISPFI, titled Financing Your Future Build. Ivan Crowe and his team have been in industry-wide financing experts for over 30 years combined now, himself personally for a little over 18. And we have all seen Ivan at various wireless and fiber trade shows, and he has already been able to help hundreds of customers with millions of dollars of funding for new deployments and network expansions. Today's technology demands high bandwidth connectivity, and there are a handful of manufacturers in the industry that can deliver that. So today we're going to learn about the custom tailored financing options that WISPFI has prepared for ISPs looking to deploy or expand fiber optics or wireless internet access into their markets. We will record today's presentation and share it online. So also please submit your questions in the chat window, and we will answer as many as we can after the presentation. So without further ado, I'd like to hand it off now to Ivan. Ivan, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Jonathan. Appreciate it. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking the time today to join this webinar organized by our good friend Jonathan Nicholson and the ISP Supplies team. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and tell you a little bit about what I do every day. And I assume that all of us listening to this today and the ones that will hopefully download it and listen to it in the future are not only looking to learn something, but mostly because they have a need. That need more than likely came to exist because they like and they are interested in acquiring Tyrrana products and looking into the technology. And to be honest with you, for the past 3 years, it's one of the products that me and the team that I work with, my funding partners, have done the most. I am here today to teach you and show you that private financing for network building, it's not as complicated or out of your reach, even if it may look like this, even if it seems so, especially in today's climate. I personally have been in the finance industry since 2006 and in the wireless and broadband industry since 2011, when I actually randomly cold called, when I used to do a lot of cold calls, a well-known WISP in California. And I funded them a project that they wouldn't have been able to fund it otherwise because of the type of project, the equipment, and this was 2011. It was a totally different world back then. And they recommended me to visit WISPFApalooza, and so we are here today. So financing your future build. Let's start with who are the players in this conversation today. We're talking a little bit about WISPFI, which is my company and the partners I work with. And WISPFI was technically born in last year. I conceived it. It was conceived with the goal of becoming a reliable funding source in the WISP industry with a unique combination of creativity, expertise, tailored for the wireless and broadband industry where we are today. I myself have over 15 years of experience in the fixed wireless industry, providing funding solutions with a portfolio of hundreds of WISP and success stories. My funding partners have 30 years of history and technical aspects and the technology of the equipment in the broadband and wireless. And those two combined are a very powerful tool. Our main strength has always been the creativity with an end goal in mind, securing the required approvals through the path of least resistance with competitive pricing, even when other lenders or funding sources have turned it down. As far as Tyrrana, which is technically the golden goose this year at this time in the industry because of what they designed and what they built. So in the past 3 years, as far as I know, but Tyrrana's been way longer than that, even before COVID, has become one of the best products in the industry that they want to deliver advanced fixed wireless solutions. Their primary focus is on providing high capacity, low latency wireless connectivity for a variety of applications. That includes residential broadband, enterprise connectivity, mobile network backhauls. And they've been, quote unquote, the sleeping giant for many years, and now they've woken up to make their dent in the industry. And the third player in this chat today is ISP Supplies, and they've been the vendor of the year awarded by WISPA for maybe 5 years in a row or 4. And they're very well known for having a team of capable and responsible people with great partnerships across the industries and across multiple OEMs. Now, I know that most of you are familiar with Tyrrana. and most likely you know more about the product than I do. But just in the event that some of us that are here signed up today to this webinar, that signed up because of the financing and not necessarily only for the Tirana, I want to go briefly a little bit over what Tirana is and some of the capabilities. And the fact that they have emerged as a leading provider in the fixed wireless access solutions industry, mostly due to a combination of innovative technology, robust performance, and strategic advantages. So what makes Tirana one of the best products in the fixed wireless industry? There's a couple of things I was able to identify doing my research, and one of them is innovative technology, a G1 platform, and interference mitigations. This is very important for you guys that are on the technical side that are operators. High performance through high output and low latency and extended range and coverage with both urban and rural areas, which has always been a challenge. Adaptable deployment for different scenarios, including residential, enterprise, and mobile backup applications. Private financing, the way we do it, the way WISPFI and my partners do it, it applies very well to this particular topic because of the residential part of it and the fact that the equipment goes to multiple sites. Consistent performance on applications and resilient gear under challenging conditions in geographical areas. Ease of deployment and remote management capabilities. Strategic partnership consisting of a strong ecosystem of service providers, distributors, and system integrators and funding sources. They're actively working on this, especially with all the funding that is going to come next year with multiple federal broadband grants and programs. And they're really building up their partnerships. Now, how leveraging equipment financing helps to implement Tirana, all the way from a startup to a WISP, let's say for over 1,000 subs. So the goal of fixed wireless networks today is to, how they're calling it, bridge the digital divide to secure access of connectivity to every possible geographical area. One of the bridges to cross that digital divide, the way I've identified it, is through financing, through equipment financing. And there's a couple of things that I want to mention on it because there's obviously some challenges. So the challenge number one, the initial challenges, initial startup phase, overcoming initial capital challenges. Now, this is quite important. We're talking about the initial investment. Now, to get the initial investment, even if your company is already established, is a little bit difficult when you don't have a history. And the basic costs and the minimum to start without the need of substantial capital investments are a few that I'm going to go over later. And this is crucial. So startups also that might have access to capital. Cash flow management, the ability to spread the payments over time. The WISP and the ISP, the operator, can better manage its cash flow without having to put a lot of money today for something that is going to produce them ROI for the next few years. Preserving capital it's essential for the startup costs, such as marketing, staffing, and operational expenses that will come along everything. Preparing your company for the first approval in their privately funded network. What you need to know. I'm going to go in a little bit detail here so you know exactly what the lenders are looking for and you learn to see it from their point of view. Quick market entry. Using financing for your deployment allows fast vendor payments and shipping of your equipment because your vendors get paid on time and when they need to, when the equipment becomes available. Good impressions, everybody knows, is in this industry, which is very small, technically small, are very important, especially with suppliers in the industry. Because they're the ones that are able to provide you your equipment quick and on time, especially as you're growing and the demand increases. Equipment financing allows you to pay your suppliers in full as soon as the gear is delivered. So when you get it, they get paid. And when there's financing involved in a transaction, all of the discounts that the manufacturers and the distributors and the value-added resellers provide, they apply on the financing side of it as well. Even if you're not really paying for it directly, even if the funding source is paying for it directly, discounts do apply. Flexible financing solutions and options that can be tailored to the WISP needs that allow you to increment your funding exposure and match your expansion. I'm going to go into this a little bit deeper later on too as well. And this is my first webinar. I'm hoping everybody's not bored, and I'm hoping you have some questions later because I'd be more than happy to answer them. So once you establish something, let's talk about the growth phase. How do you expand once you're growing? So expanding your network capacity as demand increases. As the operator or the WISP acquires more subscribers, financing additional RNs to run equipment licenses, the ability to finance it ensures that the network can handle increased data traffic, maintain service quality. The ideal scenario here is that after your first initial deployment, and you have 6 to 8 months, you've been paying your contracts and your financing obligations on time, your demand will eventually increase and you will need to purchase additional equipment and licensing. Having history of your first lease will make it easier on the second one, and so on and so forth. And finding a good partner that can help you get set up your first lease, your first contract is key. Afterwards, the approval times get shorter, the approval amount and approval limits get higher. Flexible upgrade paths. So financing can be a solution not only for gear and licenses, but also for the initial groundwork, labor, soft costs, installers, technicians, people you have to pay on hourly rates. All of that is required to implement your Toronto solutions. I mean, that's assuming you don't have your own in-house team, which also gets paid, but if you hire outsiders too. This is especially crucial for those large deployments because when you have a budget for that labor, for that project, more often than never, it always goes above the budget. And having a financing solution that includes it, so you don't have to put out-of-pocket costs, it's very important. Soft costs and labor is something you can finance all the time when you're dealing with companies like WISPFI, like the partners that we work with. And it's very difficult to get financing for soft costs and labor when you go to your bank, for example. They don't really understand that part, much less the equipment itself. Optimizing operational efficiency through balancing costs and revenues. So by aligning your financing payments according to your revenue growth from new subs, you can plan future needs and even purchase additional equipment for planned expansions before is required by your network. So I have a few customers that have been working for many years that based on their subs demand, they plan for future quarters with financing now. They come to me and ask me if we can secure an approval today when they have a project plan, let's say in Q4, because we just entered Q3 now. If they have a project plan in Q4, we start looking at what is necessary today, plan the approvals today so they're ready when the final specs are out, the bill of materials is completed, and that will give you and help you have an idea of your budget and also give you time to calculate the labor so you can include it on the financing as well. Allocating resources and capital. Free up capital that can be used for other growth-driven activities like marketing, employees, support. So when you use financing, leveraging monthly payments on your acquisitions allow the operators in the WISP to budget their expenses better. When you don't have to spend money by buying the platform and acquiring the hardware, you need to invest that extra capital, and most of you do already, in marketing, finding leads, going door to door knocking like the old times, or just campaigns on Facebook, on Google, figuring out ways, and all those cost money that technically you can't finance that with a company like me, but you wouldn't have to because people like me, WISPFI, my partners are able to get you the funding for the equipment, which is where the big expenses are. Mitigating the financial risk factor. Financing reduces the financial risk associated with large capital expenditures, providing a safety net should the market conditions fluctuate or growth projections need adjustment. So the fact that you're not knowing what's going to happen in a month from now, in November on elections, it doesn't matter. It's very difficult to come up with $150,000, $250,000 out of pocket. But when you have the option of spreading that through 5 years on 60 payments, it makes a whole lot of a difference, even to go to sleep at night. Let's talk about the next point here. How getting an approval in the market works today. So this part is important. This is the topic I want to make sure you understand, because my goal here is for you to see this from the point of view of the lenders. So you have a clear picture of what you can and cannot do, and also what you can and cannot finance. The market is uncertain, but certain rules within the lending industry don't change. Rates change because we can't control them. The economy does that. The Feds say that. But the requirements and the rules are pretty much the same, at least the basic concepts of it. Basic needs and requirements for lenders when it works with startups and companies with over 5 years in business. So now this is a standard rule in most lenders in the industry, at least the lenders that know about the wireless and broadband industry. They're very similar. In the credit and lending industry for equipment financing, they created 20 years ago, 30 years ago, a long time, even before my time, a product that's called Corp Only. And that's an approval system where lenders do not manually look at transactions. They basically go into a system, into a program, and they look at certain parameters, which I will show you. And based on those parameters, they are able to approve you up to $150,000. Some of them go up the way to $500,000. And they are able, and this approvals, when they say Corp Only, it means no financial disclosures of your last 2 years tax returns or your audited statements, and no personal guarantees. So if you have more than 5 years in business and a pay net score of 660 and above, you're able to qualify for this program. I'll show you all of that too, how the pay net looks and how the DMB looks. Now for the startups, it's a different story because the Corp Only doesn't exist in that space. There's no the corporation has no history. So they need personal guarantees from the majority owners. Usually the rule of thumb is 20% and above, any owners above 20%. And in both cases, Corp Only and not, the most important thing they look at is the last 3 months bank statements. And they want to see that your monthly payment is able to be sustained with the ending balance on every month of those statements. Let's say if you're looking for $150,000 or $200,000 and you have a $4,000 a month payment, if you have a bank account that it ends every month around 2K, they're not going to approve you. So these are the kind of knowledge that we bring into the table before it goes to the market, before it goes to the lender, before it goes to credit, to get set up and knowing how it is. So why financing works for WISPs? And this is something that is very dear to me because in 2011, when I discovered this market, more or less, I saw there's a very good opportunity, and it's always been a good potential for us in the finance industry, and there's a lot of room to help. 0 down versus 100% upfront. That's as clear as day. On a financing transaction and on equipment financing, there is no money down. It's not like when you have to buy a property or have to lease a car or any other type of asset. You do not have to pay any upfront money. No 10%, no 20%, no 30%, no nothing like that. Most of transactions usually have 1 or 2 payments up front that are part of the contract of the monthly payments, and they are applied to the term. Flexible to fit customers' budget, operational and capital. No delays on new equipment needs for new installs. This is part of what I said before, that basically you get ready and have the approvals ready before the need comes up. And you can get your vendors paid on time, you can get the equipment on time to service it and install it. The ability to finance installation, soft cost, and labor. That's key, because not only you are capable of financing the installation costs of the technicians, any soft cost, permits even. I've been able with my team to finance licenses, FCC licenses, IP addresses. Those are all considered soft costs that can be financed through the structure and the model that we follow here. Short process time frame. We've all gone, well, not all, but a lot of us that will listen to this webinar will probably have gone through an SBA process, will probably have gone through a large fiber build-out financing process. Nothing like that is the same, similar in this space. The approval timeframes are usually between 2 days or less. Documentations are 2 days or less. Funding is 2 days or less after equipment's delivered. So it's a fairly quick process. Quick payments to suppliers. As soon as the equipment's delivered, the supplier gets paid. They don't have to wait net 30. They don't have to wait net 60. They can get the money today, and you build your relationship better with them. Large ticket approvals under corp only. What that means is, what I mentioned before, 250,000 is the average corp only limit for most lenders. When you have $1 million fiber build out that you need to get done because you have a grant in the process and your bank told you no, and you have $1 million that you need to deploy, that you need equipment to deploy, corp only comes in very handy. And the strategic that me at WISPFI and the partners I work with, they are able to get you. Our strategy is 4 approvals of $250,000. You would have 4 payments at the end of the month. Your rate's not going to be that much different, maybe 50 basis points or 100 basis points higher than normal if you would have been able to get the million. But since you're not able to get the million, you need to strategize and be creative about it. And that's where we come in. And the last one, but not least, the wireless customer premise equipment. A lot of lenders have a problem in this space that they don't want to finance equipment that is not located or installed where the company address is. This is not a situation with us here. Our banking partners and our lending partners have no issues, and we structure the transaction in a way that the CPEs and the residential notes, in this case, that's how they called for this product, it's they're totally not a problem to be deployed in the customer's locations. Now, I want to talk a little bit of the background things of how the banks do on the background. And for this, I want to show you something too as well. I want to show you a Dun & Bradstreet report, a sample one. This is what the lenders look. That's the first thing I look when I pull a record and I'm when talking to a company. I deleted all the names of the previous customer here. So you got the customer name. And one of the most important part here is the paydex score, 79, delinquency score, 16, and you have a rating of 1 or 2, employees, credit history, name. There's like 20 pages of this. I'm showing you the first one so it looks like it, so you know how it looks. This is where our strategic thinking comes in. With this report, we're able to update it working alongside with DNB when a customer don't have it. When a customer has never seen it, we are able to update it with him, get on the phone, and make sure that we upload the trades in order to get this part here, the paydex score, correct. And the minimum number we want to have here is 65. We want to have a rating of 1 or 2 or 1 or 3. And we want to have employees above 15. And we want to have time in business here shown. I will show you those in details afterwards. But this is one of the reports that they look at, and this is the first thing we look at. The second thing we look at is the PayNet score report. So the PayNet is basically like an Experian. Think of it like your company's FICO. When you see here PayNet score master 642, this is what the banks are looking. You need to have 660 and above to get an approval or a decent pricing. But if you have less than 660, it does not mean you cannot get it. It just means it's going to be a different type of lender that will accept it, because our expertise comes into as well that we know what lenders want and which lenders what they're looking for. So if you know we have a PayNet score of 642, we need to find a lender that gives good rates with PayNet scores of 642. Here in this, it shows you all the loans you have, all the leases you have, even credit lines, and it will allow you to give who you're paying on time, if you're paying late, and this is what the lenders look. If you have an opportunity afterwards, I'll show you how we can work this out and how you can analyze this. These are the 2 main tools that they look for. So we go back here. So the funding process starts with the credit approval. we talked about PayNet, we talked about the MB. The other thing that the banks want to see is your last 3 months bank statements. So when you have your last 3 months bank statements, you have a quote from ISP Supplies, and let's say the quote is for whatever amount is. We're going to show some scenarios later. I analyze the DMB, I analyze the PayNet, I try to see which funding source is the best fit for it from our current partners, and based on the amount, we submit it for an approval. Let's assume you get an approval on this one. Rates right now, everyone knows they're not cheap. I mean, 2 years ago, my best A pricing was around 4.5%, 4%. Today, best A pricing is probably around 8.5%, 8%, considering a transaction over $500,000, for example, with good financials. Rates are more or less situated between 9 and 11% today. If we're talking about startup costs, it should be between 12 and 15% if you're a startup looking for deals under 50,000 and such, or 100,000. That's more or less where rates are today. They change. We expect a decrease by the end of the year, but you never know. But it's good to have that in mind so you know more or less what this is gonna cost you. So after you get the credit approval comes documentation. The documents are fairly simple documents, usually 3-4 pages, consisting of your payment schedule, what you're going to finance, the equipment you're going to finance, a delivery and acceptance form. Insurance is required for every lease, and all customers usually have insurance with Unitel and other companies that you need a certificate of property, an evidence of property, and a certificate of liability. And after you sign the contracts, they're reviewed by the funding source. After they're accepted, the purchase order is released to the vendor or the supplier so they can ship the equipment. The equipment, once it gets there, you sign what is called a delivery and acceptance form, and you put the date on when you receive that equipment. And once that is sent back to the lender, a day or so later, the vendor gets his money. The vendor gets the funding for the invoices that was financed, and 30 days, or depending on the billing cycle, this is important you keep it in mind, all lenders have different billing cycles. So make sure you know exactly what the billing cycle is for the approval you have, and it's even better if you can set it up on ACH, because after you set it up on ACH, you basically would know that you will be able to get things paid on time. And this is key, because whatever you don't pay on time is going to show up on the PayNet that I showed you earlier. So in the event of WISPFI, and let's call it WISPFI partnership, WISPFI ecosystem, because I'm not alone in this. It's very difficult to make it through life alone. How can WISPFI make a difference in getting an approval? So I've been in this industry for 17 years and in the broadband space for 11, 15. What we bring to the table is we bring to the table knowledge of the assets, knowledge of the industry, and knowledge of the financing. So expertise in the industry when it comes to funding sources that match credit assets. That basically means to you is that there's multiple funding sources and lenders with different parameters, different acceptance of the gear and collateral, and amounts they're comfortable with, as well as the type of equipment they're comfortable with. There's a lot of things that you need to know in order to strategize how to get an approval. We bring that to the table with our team. Direct access to multiple funding sources with known history in the WISP market. It's taken us years to find the right funding sources, and that's what we've been able to. Building up your DUNS report from scratch for startups. This is a service that I can provide for free for all of the entities and the companies that want to be able to get something started and to be able to finance their first round of deployment. The DUNS report and the DMB, what I showed you earlier, I am able to help you set it up from scratch, how to buy it, what to put it. I'll guide you in the software to do it. I've been doing it for a long time. Financial planning and structuring of a finance project for Tirana deployment. Now, in this part of it, my main funding partner, that is also a Tirana partner, is very good when it comes to the design and the specs of the equipment. She has a lot much deeper knowledge on the technical aspects of the project and wireless broadband deployment. I am more of the financial planning and the banking side of things, and That's why you need both talents, both minds, when it comes to strategize a project of a fiber build out of, millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars. Because when you combine both the knowledge of lenders and financing, and you add the knowledge of the equipment and gear specifications and capabilities, that becomes a powerful tool and a powerful ally to the end users that work with us. Over 15 years of experience in the industry with a known track record of success stories and overcoming credit challenges. I can provide multiple success stories that I've been able to accomplish in this. Well, not all of them are success. There's always a few ones that go bad, but out of 100, maybe 2. I love this industry the most because everybody pays. When you deal with a company owner on the phone, and when you have that company owner on the phone and he knows that his business depends on your expertise and your knowledge, you get that from them. You get that response and that respect and that honesty from them. So how do I pay back my Tirana investment? And is it even profitable to finance it? I want to show you a little bit of a math calculation here, and hope I don't bore you with the numbers, but so I wanted you to see that it's profitable to buy Tirana, even though some people may claim it costs more. But even though the ROI and the service and the what you get out of this product makes it worth it. In today's credit climate, uncertainty with politics, rates, crash or no crash, deception or no, all we really need to care about here is, can I afford to pay back my financing contract? And if I can't afford it, can I make a substantial profit, or can I make money? Can I have a reasonable ROI with this? So let's take a look at a few Tirana package scenarios, basic packages that include a complete base node and residential node setups with all the accessories and licensing provided by ISP supplies. And I did this exercise to have an idea. And Jonathan put a promotion not too long ago about some super packs, and I'm showing it here. Super pack 1, 2 gigahertz, base nodes, 48 gigahertz, 5 gigahertz residential nodes at 47,000. Super pack 2 at 94. Super pack 3, 6 base nodes of 5 gigahertz and 144 residential nodes, 141. This is the promotion that they have before, and I wanted you to look at these numbers here for this next exercise. So let's say Super Pack 1. Let's pick that one. You got $47,000 and $47,066.51. If you stick to what I said before, which is corp only, approval limit, no financials, no personal guarantees, and you pick a 36 months, which is the plan 1, you get a payment of $1,510 a month. On a 48 months, $1,185. 60 months, $990. Now, as you can see, the longer the term, the shorter the payment, and also the lower the APR. The APR rate goes down as the term is extended. Of course, the amount of interest you pay, the longer you carry out the term, is more, but the nominal APR is lower. And that will depend on what is your budget, what are you planning to spend on this every month to cover the costs. So we got part 2, $94,000, 36 months with a payment of $3,020, 48 months, $2,370, 60 months, $1,980. So your monthly payment before applicable sales tax, and before applicable sales tax is the only charge that you're going to see on top of this here. It depends on your state, and it depends on your county and on your city. But a lot of situations we can help you get exemptions, because technically a lot of states exempt this type of purchases. They exempt this type of equipment acquisitions because they're internet based and connectivity based. We look at Super Pack 3, $141,000. This is still under the corp only limit, guys. This is still only no personal guarantees and no financials. And you're able to get $141,000 if you have a good DMB report like I showed you before. 36 months, $4,525 a month. 48 months, $3,555, and 60 months, $2,963. Pack 4 was still under. This is under the corp only limit, even though it's above $150,000. But we have lenders that can get you, if you have 5 years or more, corp only approvals at above up until 250, depends on the record, sometimes 500,000. You got $188,000, 145.33 with a 36 months payments of $6,093. Very affordable. 48 months, 47.35, 60 months, 39.50. Now, all of these rates, all of these payments here have a rate factor attached to it, and they have an APR attached to it. I went with a standard rate of 9.2%. So all of the payments that you saw here are based on 9.2%. Now you can give you an idea of your budget. Now I want to do a simple scenario here so you can see how does it work when it comes to paying it back. So let's take the scenario number 2 that has a 36 months financing agreement, right? So scenario number 2, you have a scenario number 2 with a payment of $3,020. You multiply that by 36 months because it's a 36 months term, and you get $108,720 total amount of receivables. That is the monthly payment that does not change, including the interest. You're going to have the same monthly payment throughout the term. There's no variability here. So the amount financed for this scenario was $94,000, 93.75. That means that over the term of 3 years, you're going to pay an interest of $14,628. You divide that by 3, and you get $4,876 a year worth of interest. Now, in this scenario, we have 96 residential nodes and 4 base nodes. I'm not an installer. I'm not an operator. I've spoken to hundreds of them throughout my tenure. So I'm using a basic calculation and simple math, assuming a lot of things, and assuming in a scenario that 70% of the RNs and users are connected within the first 3 months. Let's assume 70% of the 96 RNs and all the BNs are installed. So within the first 3 months, they're all connected, 70%. 3 months after the lease has funded, the commencement of the lease. So with an average monthly rate of sub of $90, we're going to get something here, right? We're going to look at first month, $3,000, no income. Second month, $3,000, no income. Third month, $3,000, no income. All your guys have been working and installing and working hard in marketing campaigns, assuming you haven't done it yet, but most of you do it much before you buy. The fourth month, let's say you have 70% install already, and you have 70% of 96 at $90 a month, you're going to have an income of $6,000, $6,030 a month for so on and so forth for the first 12 months up until the last month, $6,000 per month. So now we go to the numbers here so you can see something. Total lease payments on year 1. That means the $3,020 times 12 is $36,240. So the total income for year 1, assuming 70% of it deployed, is $54,270. You can instantly see that your lease payments are totally it's $36,240, and you already have an income of that year of $54,270. But there's other costs associated to it. I did a little bit digging around and call a few of my customers and try to get some numbers. So assuming $200 average per unit installation cost, I mean, that includes labor, energy, power, marketing. I'm hoping these numbers are more or less what happens in your area. And let's assume $900 for each BN with 4 sectors per tower, totaling $3,600. Now the total cost for the year 1 on package is $17,000. That's $13,400 on residential nodes, $3,600 on tower installs for the base nodes. So you take that $17,000 plus the cost of the financing, that is $36,240. Your initial year costs are going to be $53,240, using rough numbers here. And that is covering the installs, the base nodes, the RNs, the marketing, the energy, the labor, and the lease payments for the first year. So year 1, Tirana deployment. Year 1, the Tirana deployment revenue, it'd only be about $1,000, $1,030, because you have all the costs on the year 1. But year 2, assuming let's assume that you're not buying anything else and you stick it with what you have. Assuming all of that, year 2, you're going to have a profit of $18,030, year 3 the same, with a net revenue at the end of $37,000. That means of the 3rd-year term, it's a 36-month financing agreement we're looking at here. We are going to have a revenue of $37,090. Now, the interest on the financing is $14,628. We looked at that before. That means that your net profit comes out at $22,462 after the 3rd year. Even though with a 9% rate, because I used the 9.5, 9.2% rate on the monthly payment, and numbers may vary depending on state and geographical area, even though that the cost of the equipment might be a little bit higher than other products or similar products out there, there's a lot of other advantages, not only that you can have an ROI, even if you choose a financing route, but also the reliability of the product, the speed, the consistency of what you're buying. Now, I have a customer that is very dear. I mean, I know him for many years, and I just want to tell a little bit of a small story about it. I was trying to call and tell him I was going to give him a heads up about this, but it's basically I like the way he plans things, because they know their market, they know their industry, they know their area, and they're actively looking for more. So every quarter, he has a list of equipment he's going to need for that quarter, whatever the amount that might be. They have multiple products, Aviat, Tirana. Right now, they're doing a lot of Tirana, but they do a lot of different types of equipment, and they include labor, they include other costs, they include machinery as well. And every quarter they send, Ivan, this is our budget for this quarter. And they say, Ivan, can you do it? And I've done a lot for them. And all of their approvals, because of the fact that they were able to listen to a voice that was guiding them, are corp only. So based on their Dun & Bradstreet and their PayNet score, and the fact that they pay their bills on time and they manage their bills on time, they are able to get constantly more corp only approvals and more corp only approvals. And if you have a good finance partner and a good funding partner that is able to guide you through the process, he, meaning me and my team, will always find a new funding source. We will always on the hunt of a new lender. So this new lender is able to support our existing customer base every time they have a new expenditure. I love the way that he handles his business. They have a good and solid, they buy a lot from ISP supplies, and I like the way he conducts himself based on listening to what he should do from people that knows. And there's always room for improvement, but it's been going well so far. Now, one thing I wanted to mention, now that I showed you a little bit of how the profits work, how the financing works, what banks look at, what you need to know, what you need to provide, I want to share something on the closing thoughts, because I know some of the numbers that I used on this exercise might not match your current area. Maybe pricing is different. Maybe the costs are different in where you live. Maybe your installation rate's lower. You have to do more marketing. You have to do more Google ads. You have to do more Facebook ads. Maybe your interest might be higher because your credit may not be that great. There's a lot of different factors. But the good thing is that the math that I use can be calculated for anything. I can help you do those financial plannings. It depends on your situation. We can do the math. We can calculate how the ROI when you buy Tirana, how is that going to affect you, how much you're going to get, and we can estimate it. If you have a good and reliable product like Tirana that is acquired through a thorough process of securing financing with the right partner and managed properly by the operator and the ISP, the likelihood of success improves exponentially, as long as you know what you're doing and you're being guided by the correct partner. But the key is that finding the right partner for your business today, because a lot of the customers I had before, I was the right partner for them at that moment. One of my first customers a long time ago when they were started was WISPFI ISP. I was the right partner for them at that moment, and I was able to help them then. As you grow, you find your right partner today. Now, since that is the key, vendor partners like ISP supplies, platform partners like Tirana, I myself have built a strong partnership with lenders funding sources, and value-added resellers, like I was mentioning before, Schneider Rosinski, it's my priority partner, plays a huge role in all I explained today, especially when it comes to designing the project, designing and structuring a large project, a large fiber build-out. Because in this industry, knowing how to get the capital and having knowledge on what the banks look, it's very difficult for you. Your hands are full. Your hands are full in knowing to grow your company. If you find a partner that is able to do that for you and be on your side and be your ally, it's one of the best ways to bridge the digital divide here. And I appreciate your time here that you took today and listen to me talk a little bit about what I enjoy doing every day. And I really look forward working with you and talking to you individually if you're interested more. So open for any questions right now that you may have. Jonathan, anytime you want to open that, I'm good.
Excellent. Hey, and excellent presentation. Thank you so very much, Ivan. You covered a lot of really good info, and thank you for breaking the numbers down to make the big picture a lot easier to see. We actually did have some really good questions come in. We have some time to cover a couple of them. One of them is, if I already financed Toronto equipment, but my existing lender said I cannot get more financing approvals, what can I do?
Well, okay, that covers sort of what I said before, but let me expand on that. Lenders, if you go direct, they have a corp-only limit exposure, 250K, $500,000. Let's say when you reach that exposure, your lender says, I cannot really give you more unless you give me personal guarantees, or let me look at your financials to see how profitable you are, because you're not really fitting under corp only. You still can get more money. You still can get more funding because there are other lenders out there. You just need to talk to the right partner like WISPFI, like SRE, so we can find those lenders for you, because you're not limited to one bank. You're limited to as much lenders you can afford, and then you can show us you can afford.
Excellent. Thank you. Another good question here is, can I pay off my lease before the term on the contract?
Yeah, I get that all the time. Yes, you can pay it off, but I want to make sure that we always speak the truth here and be honest. You can pay it off, but it's not like a loan that you can only pay the capital and pay 0 interest, let's say at the month number 12. You can pay it off. Let's say you have a 36 months agreement and a year and a half, you got a grant or you came into some money and you want to cancel it, not to pay interest. You're able to do it. As long as you're paying it on time, you can get a payment discount, and the lenders we work with offer very good prepayment discounts. So it's not impossible, it's just not free.
Good deal. Makes sense. Thank you. Here's another one. If I already have a finance lease with a different lender, can WISPFI consolidate that existing loan into a new lease so I can buy more equipment and pay off that existing lease?
Yes, that's a good question, and we've seen that scenario a couple of times. Since some customers don't really know exactly how it works, they do several leases. Let's say they buy a couple of $10,000, $15,000, 10, 15 times with ISP suppliers, and each time they did a lease, and since all of those leases are small amounts, they have rates high. So if you take all of that and bundle it and consolidate it into one approval, let's say for 100,000, and you need another 100,000 of equipment, not a lot of funding partners and funding sources can do it, but me and SRE can, by bundling it, your previous debt, paying it off, and adding the cost of the new equipment you want to buy. So it's doable.
Very good. Thank you. Can I finance equipment I have already purchased?
Yes, you can. It depends on how long have you purchased it, though. I mean, if it's 3 months, it's reasonable. Anything more than 3 months, you're not going to get a lot of good rates on it, because that's what's called a sale leaseback. And sale leasebacks is a similar product that carries a little bit of a higher rate, but you're able to get refunds on anything you've bought recently that has still asset, that is still a good asset. It cannot be software, that it has to be a hard collateral. Anything less than 3 months, you can.
Oh, that's good to know. Thank you. Last one here is, what do I need to do or show to increase my limit?
First thing that you need to pay attention to, and this is the first thing I say to every call, is that let's look at your Dun & Bradstreet and your PayNet. Let's make sure that they have the information that banks need. Let's make sure that your bank statements, if you don't have the funds, maybe we can add some working capital on it so you can keep those funds in your bank and show stable, consistent ending balances, let's say times 20 of what your monthly payment is going to be. If your monthly payment is $2,000 for 100K on 5 years, we want to have you $30,000 at least at the end of the month average, if possible. And we can help you get to that number. What can you get ready as well is the Dun & Bradstreet is important to keep it up. Make sure that you put everything on ACH as much as you can. Don't rely on sending checks. And consult with your guy. Call your finance partner. Call WISPFI. Call us, and tell us what you're thinking, so we can get ready for you at the same time.
Good deal.
That's good.
Thank you. And those were all great questions. Thank you for everyone for submitting them, and for Ivan for reviewing them, and also for today's presentation. If you can please switch to the slide with your contact info on there.
Yeah.
That way everybody has it there. And so there's Ivan's contact info on the screen for anyone who is ready to start the financing process. You can reach out to him direct. Before wrapping up, though, we would like to mention a special ISP Supplies exclusive promotion that we're running. For a limited time, if you email Ivan your ISP Supplies equipment quote that you're needing to get financed. In today's presentation, we concentrated mostly on Toronto Wireless, but WISPFI can fund any wired or wireless solution. So send Ivan a copy of the ISP Supplies quote of equipment you need financed, and you will receive a complimentary DNB, Dun & Bradstreet, credit pull. So that's a $150 value there that you'll be getting for free, so make sure to take advantage of that. And this brings us to the end of our webinar. I wanted to
Also,
give a big thank you to everyone. Yeah, go ahead.
I will not only pull the DNB, I will also show you how to make it updated and how to work on it, and teach you how to use it better to the most advantage of you. Perfect.
So it's a free credit pull and a mini financial consultation included. So that's even better there. Thank you, Ivan. So yeah, we're at the end of the webinar now. We run out of time here. I wanted to give a big thank you to everyone who attended. This recorded webinar will be uploaded on our YouTube channel and shared on social media. So please make sure to subscribe and follow us. And if anyone is interested in discussing financing an upcoming build, please reach out to us at sales@ispsupplies.com for pricing and to be qualified with WISPFI for financing as well. So that's all the time we have today. Wishing everyone a great rest of your week and weekend. Until next time.